God bless my husband that told me to check my audio before I start recording because Ravi Shankar, a YouTube video, was on in one of my browsers. And so if I'd started recording, we would have had this beautiful Indian music in the background. And holy fuck, you wouldn't have been able to hear me. I need to make this quick because I have to work, but I wanted to just share my thoughts on relationships. Namely, a really critical piece of advice that I learned from my therapist, Sandy Boone. Shout out. She really gave it to me straight. She kind of just looked at me and was like, know thyself. Brenna, know thyself. Shakespeare knew what was up when he said, know thyself. And I was like, damn, yes. Know yourself. That is the most important thing to dictate whether or not your relationship will be successful. I am a closet codependent. Well, I don't know closeted. I'm like out of the closet, but I am a recovering anxious attachment. I am a recovering Disney rom-com porn addict, like not real porn. Although I have watched it and I don't watch it anymore for my own specific reasons. Can go into it another time. But I am a recovering like unhealthy expectations of love. Love is going to save me. Someone is going to complete me. Once I'm loved, I'm going to feel so good about myself. A romantic relationship is going to make me feel like I have purpose. I just want to feel seen. I just want to feel chosen. I am recovering from all of those things. And Sandy was telling me, listen, Brenna, you need to get to the point that if you never meet somebody and you never find a relationship, it's not going to matter because you love your life so much, you're cool with yourself, you're comfortable with yourself, that you don't need that other person to now make your life somehow better. Honestly, a very daunting task because part of me is like, I can't fucking admit that, or like, I'm not going to get to that point. I want to be with someone. I want a family. I want a partner. And so I understand so many people that are like, yeah, that advice doesn't fucking work because like, I do want a family. It's totally fair, but I also, in a way, think I'm not about to tell women to negate their biological desire to have a family. It's like a little bit of a balance. You have to balance both because sometimes things in life happen and you end up being not as fertile as you thought that you were or what have you, right? And so life throws you curveballs and it's more of just like getting to the philosophical point of I'm not going to force anything. I can still have a family. I can find a sperm donor. I can adopt a child. It's not dependent on me finding someone because part of the thing that I think is so fucking toxic about Love is Blind, for example, the Netflix show, is I notice in so many conversations that people are just wanting a person to fit into a box of what they want for a partner or what they hope for themselves. It's actually not about the person that is behind the other side of the wall. And I really fucking hate that because we become so desperate for someone to fulfill an expectation or a dream that we have or a desire that we have. And it puts blinders on our faces like the fucking horses on the road that have the things that don't let them see traffic. And you get so tunnel vision and you start looking at that person and you start actually like confirmation bias, like you start doing confirmation bias where you're looking at all of the pros that align with the little container that you've set out, and you're not actually having a bird's eye view of the situation and actually taking this person in for who they are, because it's not about who they are, it's about who you want them to be. It's how you want to see them to make yourself feel safe. And this all started because my husband was talking to an old friend of his from high school, and she was in Italy and she was on vacation and she was posting a lot of stories, which maybe she normally doesn't do. And they were like, the thirst trap, a lot of selfies, she was looking good and all of this kind of thing. And it was because this person that she had dated like 10 years ago for 4 months lives in Italy and she was trying to get his attention. She's had many boyfriends after him because she lives in Mexico. But she was trying to, say, hey, I'm in Italy. And turns out they did meet up. He has a girlfriend, but they both were with one another and they kind of expressed, you're the love of my life. And so my husband was talking to his friend and he was just like, well, if you guys are the love of each other's lives, then like do something about it, move, like make it work, break up with the girlfriend, like the fuck are you doing with her? Apparently they have lots of problems. And anyways, but I was listening to their conversation and this girl was kind of talking about how, for 10 years she's tried to meet someone else, but it's never been as good as it was with this guy, that he's so amazing and she's never going to find somebody as nice as him. She's never going to find someone as good as him. And he feels the same way. Now, I'm not about to judge and say that their love is not real or their feelings for each other are not valid, but we were kind of having this interesting discussion of like, be very careful. Is it really about them? Can you actually know that much about them in spending 4 months with them 10 years ago? Or is it that they raised your standards of what you expect in a relationship and nobody has necessarily come close to matching that, but then therefore you think, oh, it's that nobody else exists that this nice, it has to be this person. No, it doesn't really work like that. It's not about that specific person. It's about the way that person made you feel and the value that you discovered you have after meeting that person. Does that fucking make sense? This is what I learned as well, having breakups and feeling so fucking heartbroken, and in my head having this preoccupation with getting back with that person, because I felt that I would never feel certain emotions again. I would never have certain experiences if it wasn't with them. And I realized that that was untrue, because it wasn't about that person harboring something unique and special that I will never find ever again, because I was also there. I also dated them. I partook in those activities. I also contributed to that sensation and that emotion. I am very much capable of replicating or experiencing that emotion in my life. Like, I get to decide and I get to take control of that. And I can identify what it was that I liked so much with that person, about that person. But it's not that if it's just in that one person and it doesn't work out, that it's never going to work out. It really does not work like that. But that is a mindset shift that I had to make. And so coming back to Sandy, being like, know thyself and take time to really live your life and have a clear idea of what lifestyle you want, what qualities in a person you're looking for, what is important to you in terms of communication, like all of those things. You need time on your own to feel whole and complete. It's not this bullshit Disney idea that someone else out there is the answer to your problems and that your life is going to be solved once you meet them. Like, we've all fallen into that trap, or at least I definitely have. I spent my whole life chasing feeling worthy in other people, just wanting to be chosen again and again and again, proving to myself to myself that I was worth it if I could get this like unattainable or commitment phobic person to commit to me. And let me tell you, I'm not with them anymore, because it burns out so fast. If you start a relationship based off of a dependency, you're just going to be an addict throughout the entirety of the relationship, craving more and more and more of it. And you're going to have like little slivers of happiness and peace and joy amidst a sea of worry and anxiety, and you're going to do everything that you can to like keep that person around, because if they're not there anymore, then your feeling of security is not there, and you're just setting yourself up for a shitty time and ultimately the decay and end of a relationship. And so if you're really, a love person, like for me, like love is really important to me. I do want a relationship, and I think that that's okay. Yes, I had to reconcile with the idea of like, how do I love my life when there's no one in it? And how can I find that value in myself? To which I'm still figuring it out. Like, I'm nowhere perfect, okay? I found a partner that I could work on those things with them, instead of feeling like I had to have all of this solved before I met somebody. But there were definitely relationships that I had that I knew I couldn't work on those things with them. So it also came about as a result of like a lot of introspection, a lot of conversations with myself in terms of what qualities I'm looking for in a person, not just like, oh, they're tall and they have a good job. No, it's like, what are their values? What do they believe in? What are their What are their values about society? Do they believe in social justice? Do they believe in environmental justice? Do they lead with their heart but also informed by their head? I'm not saying that that was necessarily a value, but I wanted someone that was in tune and in touch with their emotions and that could be vulnerable and that could communicate and that saw that as really important. So you need to define for yourself what those things are that are super important to you in a relationship, in a partner, and you also have to be okay knowing that you're going to have to weather life without that person, and that that's okay, that there's nothing wrong and there's nothing missing, and finding that wholeness, finding that self-love and that stability and that security in yourself is important. Okay, so I just ran out of space in my other camera, so I'm just going to switch to this one. So I very much understand, the angst in your heart of, oh my God, I've never met anyone like that person, because to be honest, like my husband was that person. I really felt this special connection that I had never experienced with anybody, and it wasn't a silky road to us committing to one another and being with one another. Like there were a lot of months of being unsure and him not knowing if he wanted to commit and me being all fucking like angsty in my head about it and, causing suffering to myself. So it was not silky smooth, but I knew that it wasn't this, I need to prove myself that I'm worthy and he needs to say yes to me and commit to me and therefore I'm going to feel good about myself. It wasn't that. There was genuinely a best friend like complicity between us, and the types of conversations that we had, the way that we saw the world, the way we experienced music, our philosophical orientation towards life, that was all really aligned and it felt like a very special partnership. And so if, for example, my partner's friend who's navigating these questions, like if that's there as well with this person, then like, yeah, I understand. Then this person is special and you should do what you can to like give it a try. Wouldn't you rather risk it and try it than live your life with these what ifs or like, oh, I'm not going to put myself out there because, he has a girlfriend. I mean, if you guys are meant to be together, then break up with your current girlfriend and like make that shit happen, because like what, like your real love romance is less how important than someone that you're actually not supposed to or that you're not actually compatible to be with. So if it's really that like love of my life kind of situation, fucking go for it and do everything that you can to make it happen, but ask yourself intentional questions so that you go in with your eyes open, not eyes wide shut. And also don't forget about the importance of lifestyle compatibility either. And these are all things that you need to figure out. It's not just love or it's not just passion and lust. That doesn't really carry you past 6 months. It's really about that lifestyle compatibility, your ability to hold difference, support individuality, want the best for that other person outside of your own prejudices, narratives, and insecurities. And also, you do need to work on your insecurities outside of the relationship. You cannot expect a relationship to be the savior to your problems because they're going to come back. It's not predicated on that one person. It's so weird because I really do love the idea of soulmates, right? And in many ways, I feel that me and my husband and I our souls are intertwined in this eternal dance with one another, and they will forever be complicit. But what if something, God forbid, like were to happen to one of us? Do I think that we're going to be alone forever? No. And I would want us to be able to find companionship and to find, I mean, I hate saying this, but like find love in someone else, but it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. But just because it's different and you found love afterwards doesn't mean that the original love meant less. It's just being a human and becoming an adult means holding complex feelings and complex thoughts all at the same time, and it's really fucking weird. I gotta go, but I just wanted to share that advice of know thyself. People do not save you. So find wholeness within yourself. Be clear about your life philosophy, your principles, and your values, and really take off the rose-colored glasses when you're with someone to ask yourself if you are compatible, not just in the passion, lusty sense. It's easy to be fingered in a taxi. Ask yourself about your lifestyle compatibility and your values. You have to ask yourself, are you in love with the connection, or are you addicted to the patterns of uncertainty? Because whether you admit it or not, there can be something super super sexy about the instability of does this person like me or not, which when you think about it, you're like, what the fuck? What sounds fun about that? Being on a roller coaster and sometimes having your seatbelt on and sometimes having it not, like that doesn't actually like seem fucking fun to me. That just seems like a recipe for getting your head chopped off. And so a question to really keep it real with yourself is like, is this manifesting your parental issues where your dad was unavailable or your mom was emotionally unavailable, but sometimes she was, and when she was, it felt so good and you felt so wanted and adored, and then other times she was cold or she was criticizing. And we often look for people that reproduce those upbringing patterns because it's not that it's necessarily the best for us, it's just that it feels comfortable and familiar. And we often opt for what's comfortable and familiar over, in our logical mind, what is genuinely good for us. And so I love this. This is something that I really noticed or learned about when I was in the dating world and kind of navigating all the ups and downs of dating, because God bless, like it's so fucking hard, or it can be really hard and it can be really confusing if you're, you know, someone that has things to heal and you have things to become more aware of in yourself. And so people often say that intense chemistry can also be inconsistency, longing, fantasy, delusion, emotional unavailability, and intermittent reinforcement, which is actually quite unhealthy. And people can also mistake anxiety for butterflies. It's just this like, you know, similar feeling. And so ask yourself and keep it real with yourself about whether or not that's happening. So those are a few questions that you can ask yourself if you're maybe navigating some dating questions and maybe dealing with a similar thing to the story that I shared. What I want to just quickly come back to about the one is I don't think that the one is necessarily a person. Sometimes the one is just somebody who activated the deepest fantasy in you in a way where maybe for the first time this deep fantasy came to life and you saw its possibility to manifest, and that's fucking powerful. But also I want to say that sometimes like the one that got away is really just the one that you never got to test fully against reality. So no one is saying that now this girl, if she got together with this Italian boy from 10 years ago, nothing is set in stone that is now enough and they're gonna happily live off in the sunset, licking each other's buttholes and like picking oranges from a tree and making orange juice together. No one said that that's gonna be the trajectory for the rest of their life. They just now potentially have the opportunity to test this connection against reality. And I would say, think of yourself always as a scientist. Better not to be pining against someone, afraid to share your feelings. Like, get that shit over with and say what you want. Own what you want. Own what you feel is true for you. Test it against reality. Is it an experiment that's going to blow up in your face like Mentos and Coke? Or is it an experiment that will actually bubble and sustain itself for a long period of time? You're not really going to know unless you do it. So grab your balls and do it. Grab your titties and do it. That's the reason why long distance or, you know, unfinished kind of love stories stay so powerful in your psyche, because they remain idealized. They are not exposed to ordinary life like farting and shitting and house chores and dog care or child care or life logistics or bills or routines or habits or moods or incompatibilities. You don't have any of that stuff. You basically have this like beautiful woman porn situation where you're constantly fucking, you're constantly having sex. Maybe it's on the back of a horse. He's like picnicking you. He's taking you to a picnic. You're meeting his family. You're going on these lovely away vacations, staying at a millennial gray Airbnb where they all look the same, but it's like so sexy. You're going to, you know, the pool and the hot tub and drinking champagne. Like, that's what your brain gets off on, and it doesn't fucking look like that. You're not having sex in a vineyard and not even noticing that there are worms and insects on the ground. It does not look like that. And I'm not trying to kill love. Like, you can have those things. You can have those moments as well in a long-term committed partnership. It's just different, and also it's just not going to be like that all the time, and that's life. That's just realistic. So get on board or get off the boat. So how do you hold both truths at once of I love love and I don't want to be desperate? You don't have to choose between being open-hearted and open-minded. You can be both at the same time. You can be romantic, you can be hopeful, you can be soft, you can be vulnerable, you can desire a partnership. And at the same time, you don't have to abandon yourself. You can Also, you don't have to be desperate. You don't have to be living in fantasy world in your head. You don't have to blind yourself to incompatibility, and you don't have to be so predisposed to settling for almost love. So when my therapist was saying, be okay being on your own, and if no one ever comes into your life, like, that's okay. I would say that you can also think of that as like your life needs to be emotionally inhabitable without romance. To just be happy seems so fugazi. So let's just end on this reaffirming statement of your partner is not where your life begins. They add to your life, but you don't start living once you found love. You're living right now, you're breathing, you're pooping, you're drinking, you're alive. And for everyone who's soft and vulnerable like me, if you're someone who deeply loves love, do not kill that part of yourself. Don't become cynical just because you want to protect yourself, because you're going to end up bringing in all of the things that you don't want in your life. It's harder to be vulnerable and it's harder to be soft, but the payoff is always worth it because you stay true to yourself. And the most important thing in life is that you don't lose yourself. So, do learn to ask questions like, am I really loving this person, or am I loving the idea of what I think this person will be or what they will save me from? Romance is beautiful, but it becomes dangerous when it becomes a rescue fantasy. The right relationship does not require you to lose yourself in order to keep the fantasy alive. So anyways, I will cap it there. Those are my thoughts for today on relationships. Let me know how this landed with you, and thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.